Well, welcome to another episode of The Platform. Great fun to have Diane Demetre on the show. She's an author and a super inspiring lady, and here's an example of that.
I'm Diane Demetre, and I'd like to share with you some of the inspirational insights I've discovered in my life. When we listen and follow our inspiration to express ourselves creatively, we end up living fulfilling, happy and successful lives. But if we ignore our inspiration with excuses like, oh look, I'm too busy, I don't have the time to pick up the guitar, or look, I don't have the money to do this, or I'm too old, or look, I'll do it when I retire. If we use excuses like that, I can guarantee you we end up living unhappy, resentful and miserable lives. What I've discovered is that fulfillment and success lie at the end of the rainbow of inspiration. If you follow your inspiration, you will always find the pot of gold. So what is it you're inspired to do but you've put it off? Think about it for a minute. Is there something you've put off? You haven't had the courage, or you keep giving excuses? Whatever it is, go ahead, because it will lead you to a fulfilling and successful life. Be inspired. Just go out and do it, as Nike says. And it is a wonderful place to live in when you're living with inspiration. I guarantee it.
So there you go, great knowledge dropped right there, and it was great to jump on Skype. She's on the Gold Coast and we filmed this for The Platform. Okay, so Diane, it's great to have you on the show. How are things?
Things are great, Andy, and how are things for you?
They're pretty good. Now, we just saw an awesome video that you did the camera about inspiration, and I'm just wondering, what inspired you to become a writer?
I think I'd always dabbled with writing when I was little, and when I was in my 40s, I was doing a lot of children's books and writing, but I didn't proceed to publication. I will now. And probably the biggest push for me to actually think of writing full-time was when I read 50 Shades Grey. And I didn't want to read it, and somebody pushed me to read it, and I went, oh no, this is so wrong for women on so many levels. And I went, no, we need more empowered, sexually aware women as the heroines rather than the insipid, yes, I'll go along with whatever you want. So that's what got me into writing.
And I read that book.
I wrote 3 erotic romances and with all very powerful, feisty women who have sex on their terms.
I read that book. What was it called again? The
Dancing Queen.
Dancing Queen.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. It must have been a pretty fun process where you're writing all those little naughty tidbits.
Well, it just came very easily. I'd never thought of writing erotic romance. I'd never read it except for 50 Shades of Grey, and the stories just sort of beamed in, and I thought, right, I'll write these, they're here. And so that's what inspiration is for me, is not thinking it out too much, that if you're inspired to be doing whatever it is that you love to do, you just follow the course of it and see where it leads. You've got to just follow it.
Well, I think a great thing too is because you just mentioned that you didn't sort of get going until your 40s, where you were thinking about writing and stuff. So I guess anything's possible for anyone at any time.
Well, I didn't write Dancing Queen till I was 56.
Wow.
So, and what inspired me there was I got the notion for Dancing Queen, and I thought, oh, really? Is this, what I'm supposed to be doing? And in one of my meditations, because I've been meditating and teaching meditation for 30 years, it came very, very clearly to me the name Bryce Courtenay. And so I then researched Bryce Courtenay and saw that he didn't start writing till 56. So I thought, hey, if Bryce Courtenay doesn't start writing till 56, so can I. So so that was part of the inspiration to actually write it.
Wow.
And so I've been madly head down, butt in the chair ever since, writing contemporary fiction, romance, romantic suspense. I cut my teeth on erotic romance, but that's not where my true love lies. And so now I've moved into murder mysteries because I grew up reading Agatha Christie, and I just love murder mysteries. So I'm writing that as well, and of course a memoir. So all over the place, following the inspiration.
Well, I'm sure that a bit of the memoir will be about a bit of a Me Too case that you went through. That must have been pretty interesting times for you.
Yes, that was over 30 years ago. That was before Me Too was even called Me Too, or there was a social movement. I was sacked from being a dancer at the casino on the Gold Coast for allegedly being too fat. And of course, that wasn't the case. My producer had made quite a number of sexual advances towards me, and I had said no. I became a thorn in his side. because I wouldn't agree and comply. And so I was very, very good at my job, and he couldn't find any other way to get rid of me except to sack me for apparently being too fat. And that's what my memoir is about daring to stand up and be counted and speak your truth, and let the chips fall where they may. And so I did. And we ended up going to the Australian Arbitration and Conciliation Commission, and I was reinstated. And then obviously I wasn't feeling too well. It really hit my health. And then I took some sick leave, and he sacked me again on sick leave. Wow. And so I went, you know what, this just isn't right. So back I went, and then, of course, in those days, there was nothing anybody could do. And the commissioner said, well, I don't want to reinstate you because your health will just suffer. And the employer wouldn't pay me out. So I walked away without a career, without any money, with nothing. And it was a really tough time because I'd lost the career that I loved most. But the whole thing is that I looked at that situation and I thought, how am I culpable in this? Because everybody wants to blame somebody else for what's wrong in their life. And I knew that that wasn't the case. I was somehow responsible. And I was responsible because I had some negative belief patterns that was stopping me from moving forward. So, you know, my producer would have been seen as my nemesis, but in some ways he was a gift, showing me that there were things I needed to change in order to create a better reality. And so my last 30 years have been finding out what that is and how do I become a person that would never happen to again. Because we're not victims, we're only victims if we choose to be victims.
But what it taught me was one very important thing, and that is our adversaries are not put there to test how weak we are. They're put in front of us to test how strong we are, how much courage we have, what we're really made of. It's now 30 years later, and I've learned so many things, and I've come so far from that poor wretched dancer who couldn't lift her head up and thought that suicide was a better option than life. And now I live a blessed, wonderful life filled with abundance and love and prosperity and joy and all of the blessings of life. And that's not by luck. That's because I focused on a future me rather than looking back and saying, me too. Everybody needs to acknowledge, yes, their past, but not live in it.
So that's what Dare is about, my memoir. It's a blend of memoir and mind, body, spirit, and the 50 insights I've discovered along the way that you can dare to stand up, you can dare to speak your truth, and you can dare to ask for what you want and get it, because I did. So I live this great, enriched, blessed life now because I dared to do those things. So, yeah, it's probably the closest project to my heart that I love most. And just letting anybody out there know, I'm looking for a publisher who's got enough daring and enough consciousness and awareness to publish this book, because this book is about raising the consciousness on the planet. So here I am, fellas, that publisher. Bring 'em on.
That's so cool. So tell us about what you've written so far. You've written the erotic novel book, which is the one I read, and what else have you done?
There was 3 in the Dance of Love series, so they were erotic romances. And then my other one was Retribution, which was a romantic suspense, and it won the RWA Romance Writers of Australia Emerald Pro Award. So that was my my testament to people who really endured hard lives. So I have a ballerina, I have an ex-military sniper, and they've both gone through a really wretched childhood. So it was their story and how they found their way out through redemption rather than retribution. And then my last one that was published is called Island of Secrets, which is a sweeping love story told across 40 years. And it all centres around this island called Harbour Island and the people on the island and the secrets that were buried there. And now I'm out with my hand up in the air submitting my murder mysteries, which are a cross like between Murder, She Wrote and Professor Reinhardt from the Murder Games. So somebody very switched on. She's 50, mid-50s, management consultant, finds herself widowed and finds herself in all sorts of adventures when she goes off on holidays.
When you're writing, do you put a lot of yourself in the characters? Like, do you feel your own emotions and then sort of get creative? Is that how it works for you?
I think that everybody's life experience comes into the characters they write, or there's people that they've had interactions with or they've observed. So what I love about writing is, yes, there is definitely part of me in there because it's my life experience that's channeling through my creativity. So I think it's very difficult to stop that, or that anybody would want to stop that. But at the same time, writing gives you an opportunity to expand past your own consciousness and your own experience and to go, well, who is this person? What is their background? Why are they behaving this way? And that's why I love writing, because I get very deeply involved with my characters. So when I close the books on them, I'm sort of saying farewell to some really good friends, because they've taught me something. I find that they actually will shoot off, even though I'm a big plotter, they'll shoot off on tangents that weren't previously there, and I go, oh, that's great, like the character's writing the book for me. That's very cool. That's very cool. Now,
you just won some big award, right? Tell us about that.
Yes, that was wonderful. That was so surprising. I won the Small Business Association Awards for International Women's Day, the Leadership Award in the Entertainment, Creative Arts and Media industry here on the Gold Coast. So I was very chuffed. I was surprised and chuffed at the same time. So it's great.
Yes, and very well deserved. At the beginning of the interview, we spoke about inspiration, and here's a clip I found about fear.
Recently, everywhere I've looked, everything that I'm seeing is all fear-based. And I don't understand why we keep talking about fear. We talk about fear of failure and how to overcome it, fear of getting sick and how not to be sick, fear of the future. Everywhere, every time we use the word fear, what we're doing is we're giving it power and we're legitimizing it as something which attacks us and something that we have to overcome. I notice everywhere everybody's talking about, oh, how to overcome the fear of this or how to overcome the fear of that. But why don't we try a different approach for a change and banish fear from our vocabulary, from our emotions, from our actions, and from our bodies? Impossible, you say. Can't possibly happen. But you know what? We can do that. And do you know why? Because we have conscious choice. I've experienced fear. I was an adopted child, which meant I was left in the hospital for 2 weeks before somebody came along and adopted me. And because of my misinterpretation of the world, I experienced fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, and then, of course, I've experienced fear of not being good enough, fear of the future, fear of failure, and on and on and on it goes. And we all have those fears, but they're all learned behaviours. And the one way out of it is to choose not to feel it. You see, nobody comes along, opens our head and pours down negative emotions. We choose to feel those things. We choose to feel fear, even if we're doing it unconsciously, based on old habits and patterns and misinterpretations. And of course, what gets us out of this is that we can choose not to feel fear. I know it's a tough one, but we can do it. You know, we are so powerful, we can even fake courage. And that's what I'm talking about today. Just don't choose fear. Instead, why don't we talk, think, act, and embody being a success, not fear of failure, being healthy, not fear of being sick, being alive, not fear of dying, and being loved, not fear of being alone. After all, aren't we all human beings? We're not called humans fearing. So I think fear is the worst four-letter word there can be in our vocabulary, and we should all banish it. It's one word we should not use. And instead, we should talk more about faith, having faith in ourselves as a success, having faith in ourselves as being loved, having faith in ourselves that we live wonderful, fulfilling lives. Talk about faith, not fear. And you will be surprised at all the wonderful experiences that will start to come into your life. Try it. Witness it for yourself.
Why do you think fear plays such a stranglehold in part in people's lives, even fear of being successful?
I look at it from this point of view, and this is what I've discovered in my journey and what I write in Dare, is that from the moment we're born, we are little sponges, we're a little blank slate, and we take on every experience, and we will literally layer that experience with fear or with love. Fear or with love. And so through our misinterpretations, we build up fear over small, inconsequential things. But that's our interpretation. That's the interpretation we're given by our carers, by our teachers, by our parents. And of course, then the fear starts to blossom, and it blossoms into what I call the ego, which is that bag of misperceptions, conditioned thinking, limitations. And then what we sort of do is we end up living with a bad flatmate in our heads who's constantly telling us we're not good enough, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too old, you're not smart enough, you're the wrong colour, you're the wrong gender, and on and on and on it goes. And that fear gets perpetuated through society, and society perpetuates it to us, and we send it back up, and so it's this loop. And so one of the things that we need to do is dare to go, you know what, I'm not listening to that anymore. If you truly were a personified flatmate, I'd say, there's the door. I don't want you here anymore. So we need to disregard our fear. We can't debate it. There's no way we can debate it. It will always win. So we're better off saying, rather than feel the fear and do it anyway, I don't necessarily go along with that. I go, be the presence of truth, be who you are, and disregard the fear. Go beyond the fear. Don't just do it anyway. And so it's about being who you are. I think we're totally obsessed with doing and having. We must do this in order to have that. And the first port of call in any fulfilled, happy, successful life is, who are you being? Because if you are being fearful, you will only ever generate fearful results. So it's that idea of being love, being abundant, being healthy, being powerful, being persistent, being patient. When we are being all of that, the fear has no place to grow. It's got no place to lay its head in our being, because we are being, and that's what I've discovered. We need to reel it all back and get back to the basics of being.
It's very cool and very, very wise. I love asking people about chasing dreams. So, living the ultimate dream. What's the ultimate dream for you if you can live it?
The ultimate dream for me would be to have a fabulously conscious publisher for Dare, and for that book to actually get out to the world, and for me to return to the speaking stage and to speak across the world on the insights that I've written in Dare, and to actually fulfill my purpose of raising the consciousness of the planet. That would be heaven on earth for me.
Awesome. Well, Diane, it's been great to chat with you on the show really quickly. I think you're amazing what you do. It's a great, inspiring story, and all the best with it.
Thank you, Andy, and all the best for you and everything that you're doing. It's been wonderful. Mwah. Thanks, hon.
Yes, there you go. Great fun to have Diane on the show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on the platform.